Okay, so VinYin today, which essentially means we're gonna warm up the body and then we're gonna have some long held poses, but we're actually gonna start out at a nice thoracic back bend. So you might already be there. If you're not, just grab a blanket, take it out the long way. You could also use a mat for this. You're gonna roll it up and you're gonna kind of gauge this. So if you know that you're tighter in your shoulders across the heart and chest, you're not gonna go as thick with your blanket. If you know that you're a little more flexible, you want a little more stretch, you can make this roll up a little fatter. And then you're gonna take it the long way and we are going to lay over this. So you basically want the blanket to hit kind of like at the bottom of your shoulder blades. So shoulder heads are gonna be pressing into the mat behind you. So we don't want it too low. So you kind of have to find that spot. We don't want it in the lumbar. We definitely want more of a thoracic stretch. And then you can lay back here. And then just kind of explore, play around with your arms. Might feel good to take them wide. Cactus arms in this pose usually feels pretty nice. And then again, if it feels like you're not getting enough stretch, maybe just adjust that blanket up slightly higher. As you come into this pose, it's not uncommon to get some like good cracks in your spine. It's a little chiropractic adjustment. And then you're gonna play around here. So feet wide as the mat, knees knocking in towards each other is usually nice. It helps you to lengthen through your tailbone. If there's any tension in your lower back, your lumbar area, this is a nice adjustment. If it does feel okay to have your legs extended, more in a Shavasana posture, you're welcome to do that as well. So go ahead and take a nice deep inhale through your nose. Open your mouth, sigh the breath out, let it go, ha. And then do that a few more times. With that exhale, you're letting all of the things that you have planned today just kind of melt into the background. You shift gears, you give yourself permission to be present for your yoga practice the next hour, to be present for yourself, to check in, to slow down. Let's pay attention to your body and your breath and your headspace. So just begin to find an even rhythm of your breath, inhaling through your nose, exhaling through your nose. So finding that Ujjayi breath, just beginning to create a little heat in the body with that. And then also using the breath is a tool to help quiet the mind, to help focus the mind. So you give your brain a little something to chew on. Notice if you've started to grip in your shoulders at all. So again, this can be intense. In fact, maybe you need to come out and make your roll up a little thinner. Otherwise, perhaps you've started to grip those shoulder blades. So release. Feel that widening across your chest. Bring your attention to your rib cage, how it feels on that inhale. So there's this really lovely expansion that happens in the front of the body, the sides of the body, the back of the body. It's very three-dimensional. As you exhale, everything constricts in. And then take a nice deep inhale. Open your mouth, sigh the breath out, let it go, ha. So if your legs are extended, just start to bend your knees. And we're gonna roll off to one side or the other. Okay, so just stay nice and low to the earth. Just move that blanket out of your way and then return to your back. Give the knees a really gentle squeeze into your chest. Probably holding thighs will feel better, especially if you're a little tight here starting out. Start to rock a little bit from side to side. Good, and then extend your legs to straight on your mat. So about hips distance apart, and then maybe just lift up and just peek to see that you're nice and symmetrical, you're even, so your legs aren't off to one side or the other. Lay back, inhale, stretch your arms up overhead. So palms face towards each other, and let's just take a few breaths here. Maybe snuggle those shoulder blades underneath you a little bit. It's that feeling that we get when we come into our bridge pose. And then we're gonna come into our little half moon pose on the floor. So you're gonna take your right fingertips, bring them to your left wrist. So pull up on that side, it's like you're getting a little longer. And then you're gonna inchworm your body, upper body, off to the right. And then you're gonna walk your legs off to the right any amount too. So you want to keep both hip plates underneath you, pressing into the mat evenly. So if this left hip plate starts to pop up off the mat, just walk your feet back to center, walk your upper body back to center a little bit. So you're making this curve shape. Gaze can just be straight up at the ceiling. Feel all of this beautiful lengthening through the left side. And you might go ahead and take that left ankle, cross it over your right ankle. That might intensify things a little bit in your body. If that's the case and it doesn't feel good, just uncross. And then here, paying attention to that inhale. How does it feel a little different than that pose we started in and the shape that we're in? Good. So if you took your left ankle over your right, uncross, walk your feet back to what feels like center, and then kind of inchworm your upper body back. Stretch up through your fingers, point your toes up towards the ceiling, and then just peek. Make sure that you have that nice symmetry. So kind of curl up and then lay back down, and then go ahead and point your feet forward. And this, I love this. It's such a nice stretch on the front of the leg. Keep directing your tailbone forward. And we go to the other side here. So you're gonna bring your left fingertips to your right wrist, pull up, get longer on that side. And then go ahead and release your feet. Start to wiggle your upper body off to the left. Walk your feet off to the left. Again, just being mindful that this left hip plate doesn't pop up off the mat. So we want the back side of our body pressing evenly. Perhaps you take your your right ankle over your left. And then you just breathe into those spaces. So you're gonna be getting a really nice stretch on the right side of your body. So you back out a little bit if you need to. You move in a little further if you need to. Hi, Susie. Few more breaths here. Good. Uncross that right ankle. Wiggle your feet back to center, and then upper body comes back to center. So again, just reach for your fingertips, and then let's point our toes up towards the ceiling. So it's like you're doing a handstand here, or even standing on your feet. And then point your toes forward again. Few breaths like this, so feeling that stretch through the front of the leg. And then just release the legs, exhale your arms by your side, roll to one side or the other, pressing up to your tabletop position. And let's just start to warm up the spine. So making your way into your cat-cow, setting up with your shoulders over your wrists, fingers spreading, pressing evenly, knees underneath your hips. And then just keep this nice and simple starting out as we begin to warm up the spine and hook up the movement with the breath. So as you inhale, you arch, you feel that chest pop forward through the gates of your shoulders. As you exhale, you release the back of your neck, melting in, inhaling, arching. Exhale, round in. And if you haven't already, you're closing your eyes. Maybe today play with stretching your breath out. So let that inhale get a little longer. Let that exhale get a little longer. Really pay attention to how things are feeling in your spine, maybe in your shoulders, in your neck. So as you come into that cat stretch, you get into the thoracic, you really let the back of your neck lengthen, which is hard to do. We grip there. Good. As you inhale, come back to your neutral spine. Let's do a little head and neck twist. So having a blanket close by or a block might be really nice, especially if you tend to be tighter in the shoulders and in the neck. So we're gonna root down into our right palm. We're gonna thread that left arm behind. You're gonna lower onto that left shoulder and potentially the ear. And like I said, if you're really tight, if that's a big intense stretch in the neck, in the shoulder girdle, just rest your head on a block or two. I remember the first time I did this pose in a yoga class, I thought I would die. It does get easier, I promise. Good, and then feel the sensation of wrapping these left ribs up towards the ceiling. And you can just stay here like this with your right hand down on the floor. Maybe you start to extend that top arm up. And then perhaps you spin that palm to face behind you so you're getting external rotation. Bend the elbow and then grab a piece of shirt, lower left waist. A few of us might be able to get our fingertips to the inside of that left thigh. And some of that just has to do with how you're built. So I have really long limbs. So this is in my body just a little bit easier. If you're a little shorter, it might not be happening. That's okay. What we do want, though, is to feel this right shoulder head lifting up towards the ceiling. So we do intensify that stretch across the chest, across those pectoral muscles, which get really tight. Good. If you have that wrap, go ahead and release and then unwind here. Oh, sigh of relief. Take a couple rounds of your cat-cow to release out the shoulders and the neck. And again, really let the back of your neck lengthen, maybe even holding there for a breath or two. And then we take that stretch to the second side. So, and I'm going to let you guys, you can see how it looks from the opposite side this time. So you're rooting down into your left palm, thread that right arm underneath, laying down on that right shoulder, right ear. Maybe your head is on a block. So I'm wrapping these right ribs up towards the ceiling. I'm spinning the left side of the chest open as well. And there's definitely some pressure on that shoulder. You can feel that lengthening through the right side of the neck. You can stay here with your left hand on the floor. Maybe you start to reach that arm up. And already, before we even start to externally rotate, just lean that left shoulder head back. And then spin your palm to face behind you. And then reach down. So grab a piece of shirt, lower right waist. And again, if you have the length in your limbs, the flexibility in your body, maybe you can snuggle those left fingertips to the inside of your right thigh. And that's nice because it gives you some leverage to start to press that left shoulder head back a little more. But again, that isn't necessary. So I love yoga because there's all these stages to the poses. These places where we can stop and we're still getting all of the benefit. Couple more good breaths here. Good, and then start to stretch those left fingertips up towards the ceiling. Exhale, unwind, and then again, just a few rounds of your cat-cow. Really letting the back of the neck lengthen and release, and maybe you're already feeling a difference in your spine, and especially in the shoulders and the neck. So just observing that, and you might not be there yet. You might need a little longer to warm up the body. So we're all a little different. Okay, So from here, let's go ahead and walk our hands a couple inches forward so we no longer have that shoulder over wrist alignment. We're giving ourselves a little space. And if you're kind of at the top of the mat like I am, you could actually walk your knees back. Spread the fingers a lot, press evenly, curl your toes under, downward facing dog. And I want you to come up onto your tippy toes, nice deep bend in your knees. Start to direct those sit bones up towards the ceiling. Let your neck release. And as you do that, you're going to be able to peek between your feet. So I just want you to see that your feet are hips distance apart. Stay up on those left toes. Start to melt that left heel back any amount. Doesn't matter if that heel hits the floor. You still might have a little bend in that knee, especially if your hamstrings are tight. For those of us with tight hamstrings, we often have a tight lumbar as well. It's all connected. So that bend in the knees is a nice little adjustment. It's kind of like using a prop, but you're using your body as a prop. Come back up to tippy toes. And then as you exhale, melt that left heel back any amount. How does this side feel different? Check in with your breath again. Are you still breathing? So we have to remind ourselves of that often. The good thing is that our bodies just breathe eventually. All right, and then so back up on those left tippy toes. We're going to start to melt both heels back any amount. And then we're going to shift forward into plank pose. I want you to pull your lower belly in and up. I want you to move really slow coming into this. And you might find that you have to wiggle your toes back a little bit. We want shoulders over wrists, fingers spreading, hips are in line with shoulders. So you're using your entire body here. This is such a beautiful pose. It's pretty safe. We can modify it by bringing our knees down to the mat. But of course, it's a challenging pose. Kind of the work naturally goes into the arms, into the sides of the waist. So see if you can use your legs more, get the whole body involved, and then keep breathing. Smile a little bit. You might be shaking a little bit. I'm starting to. Enjoy that. All right, so from here, use your belly button. Start to pull those sit bones up towards the ceiling as you make your way back into your downward dog. And then we're gonna walk our hands back towards our feet. Little standing cobra. So starting out, let's just all have our hands on our shins or our thighs. As you inhale, chest extends forward, gaze comes forward, shoulder heads press back. You can even have those elbows kind of squeezing in. As you exhale, release down, let the back of the neck go. Inhaling Ardha Uttanasana, half forward fold. Exhale, Uttanasana, full forward fold. Couple more like that. Inhale, lengthen and extend through the sides of your waist. Exhale, fold in. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, fold. This time, press down into your feet. Stretch arms out and up. Let's hold our extended mountain pose here. So you're lengthening through the sides of the waist. You're feeling those shoulders stack over your sit bones. And then notice if you're gripping your toes a lot, lift them up off the mat, stretch the toes out. And as you do that, you can feel that sensation of pressing into the four corners of your feet. And then release the toes, beautiful. As you exhale, hands come by your side. So palms facing forward. Save this nice, beautiful stance. We're gonna start to flow, warming up. Inhale, arms reach out and up. As you exhale, fold in. And just as in our downward dog, you might have a little bend in your knees here. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, fold. Inhale, press down into your feet. Feel those arches lift, toes nice and relaxed. Extended mountain. As you exhale, hands come together at your heart. A few more of these. Let them feel really good. Maybe close your eyes. Inhale, reaching up. As you exhale, hinge forward, fold in. Inhale, chest extends forward, gaze comes forward. Exhale, fold. Inhale, press down into your feet. Rise up, take up lots of space. As you exhale, hands come together at your heart. You have three more. I'm not going to cue you. You know these. Just move with your breath. Let them feel really good. Find lots of space and grace and ease in your body. Enjoy how it feels to connect the movement with breath. It has this lovely meditative quality. We were made to move. Good. And when you're done with your third round, you're just standing in your mountain pose, palms together at your heart, eyes still closed, checking in. How are you feeling? So just a little bit of movement and things start to shift a lot. So it doesn't take much. You're probably feeling some heat in your body, feeling that heartbeat a little faster, might be breathing a little faster. All right, so we're at the back of our mat. We're gonna stay here. Just peek down, feet about hips distance apart, second toe pointing forward. Tailbone lengthens down, sternum reaches up. So this beautiful, nice, tall stance. Just imagine, just channel the energy of a ballerina. As you inhale, arms reach out and up. As you exhale, hinge forward, fold in. Inhale, chest extends forward, gaze comes forward. So keep looking forward. Feel your heels rooting down into the mat. We're gonna walk forward into our downward dog. So at some point, those heels are gonna start to lift up. That's all right, but keep them pressing back for as long as you can. And then let the neck release, gazing between your toes. Inhale, shift forward, plank pose. Let's all come to our knees this first round. As you exhale, lower halfway, maybe a little less than halfway. Keep the belly lifted. Let's do a few of these. Inhale up, so our little mini chaturangas, and they're challenging. There's nothing mini about them. Exhale in, inhale up. I just got all kinds of clicks and cracks in my elbows. Exhale lower. I'm blaming it on the cold weather. Inhale up. As you exhale lower, pause it halfway. This is a distinct pose. And then land in one piece on your belly. Lengthen back through all 10 toes. Feel the elbows squeezing towards the midline. Head and chest lift. Inhale. Low cobra. Exhale, lower. Inhaling up. Exhale, lower down. Inhale up. Good. Exhale, lower down. And then inhaling up, holding here. Couple of breaths. And let's inhale, lift that right leg up, stretch it back, place it down. And then inhale, lift that left leg up, stretch it up, place it down. So lots of length in your lower back. We're using these muscles to generate that pose. So we're not pressing into our hands. From here, let's press to tabletop. Curl toes under, downward facing dog. Couple of breaths. Making any tiny little adjustments that you need to so that you feel nice and balanced and steady in this pose. And then finding a place of stillness. As you inhale, little bend in your knees, come to your tippy toes, look where you're going. End of your exhale, let's step right foot forward, then left foot forward together. You might have to take a couple steps to do that, that's fine. As you inhale, chest lengthens. As you exhale, fold in. Inhale, root down into your feet, stretch arms out and up. As you exhale, hands come together at your heart. Inhale, reaching. Exhale, fold in. Inhale, chest extends forward, gaze comes forward. Exhale, bend your knees, plant your palms, spread your fingers, left foot back, then right. Full plank this time if you'd like. Lower chaturanga, pause, and then onto your belly. So as you inhale, you either come into your low cobra or you drag your hands back a lot if you're ready for an upward dog. Press into your hands, bring your elbows to straight. From here, you can roll over your toes into your downward dog. If you are in that low cobra, press to tabletop and then roll over. So lots of little options. You can mix and match. Some days we want a little less, some days we need a little less, so always honor that. Some days we want to build a little more heat so the full chaturanga feels good. Sometimes we're still building strength in our body. I did knee chaturanga for a couple of years before I was able to do a full chaturanga. So there's nothing wrong with that. I got strong. As you inhale, little bend in your knees. Come to your tippy toes, look where you're going. End of your exhale, step left and right. Maybe you have to walk forward. That's fine too. It's a hard move coming to the top of your mat. Inhale, chest lengthens. Exhale, fold. Inhale, press down into your feet. Stretch arms out and up. Good. As you exhale, hands come together at your heart. So we're going to do a few more rounds of that. We're going to just put it together. One movement per breath. And we're going to shorten up our downward dog a little bit today. So we're going to start to build that heat in our body before we move into the more stretchy portion of the class. So inhale, arms reach up. Exhale, fold. Inhale, lengthen. Good. Exhale, bend your knees, plant your palms, right foot back, then left. So lower chaturanga. So this time, if you want to just roll over your toes from here, you can come into your upward dog. Otherwise, you're lowering down to the mat and finding your back bend. Exhale, downward dog. Good. Inhale, little bend in your knees, come to your tippy toes. End of your exhale, step right then left, walk through, or maybe hop both feet. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, fold. Inhale, press down into your feet, stretch arms out and up. As you exhale, hands come together at your heart. Inhale, reaching, lots of length. Exhale, folded. Inhale, chest extends forward, gaze comes forward. Bend your knees, plant your palms, left foot back, then right, lower chaturanga, hover or come all the way down. Inhale, low cobra or upward dog. Exhale, downward dog. And then inhale, little bend in your knees, come to your tippy toes. End of your exhale, hop through, walk forward or left then right. Inhale, chest lengthens. Exhale, fold. Inhale, press down into your feet, stretch arms out and up. As you exhale, hands come together at your heart. Inhale, reach. Extended mountain, exhale, come into your full forward fold. Inhale, half forward fold. Bend knees, plant palms, right foot back, then left, lower chaturanga. You hover at halfway or come all the way down. Inhale into your back bend. Exhale, downward facing dog. And then inhale, right leg lifts. Exhale, shoulders over wrists, knee to nose. Inhale, pull back. Feel like that. Exhale, knee to nose, gaze slightly forward, hips even with shoulders. Stretch back, three-legged dog on your inhale. Exhale, shift forward, knee to nose. Hold here. Firm the mat away. Fire up that left thigh. Press it towards the ceiling. You're going to feel the sides of your waist starting to burn here a little bit. And then look where you're going. Sneak that foot through. You might have to move it forward. And then walk that foot off to the right so you're not on a tightrope. Fire up that left leg. Inhale, rise up, crescent pose. Good. So we're going to actually start to bend this left knee. Move it towards the mat. It may or may not touch. It doesn't matter. Inhale up. So less work in this front leg. Try to keep that knee nice and steady. So just bending that back knee. Good. Exhale, lower down. Inhale up. Couple more. Feeling the burn. Exhale, lower. Inhale up. Good. Exhale, lower. Inhale, straighten. Maybe press palms, gaze up. As you exhale, hands come to the mat, palms plant, and then your choice. You step back to your downward dog. If you want to take a chaturanga vinyasa, build a little more heat, you're always welcome to do that. Always optional though, especially as we begin to warm up. As you inhale, left leg lifts. Exhale, shift forward, knee to nose, hips nice and even. With your shoulders, inhale, stretch back. Exhale, curl in, knee to nose. Good, inhale, lengthen back. Exhale, curl in, knee to nose, look where you're going. See if you can sneak that foot through. And then walk it off to the left so you're not on a tightrope. Make sure that you have enough space here. Fire up that right thigh, feel it press up towards the ceiling. Inhale, rise on up. So your tailbone is releasing down, sternum is lifting, lots of length through the sides of your waist. Exhale, Tap that right knee back down. It might not hit the floor, that's fine. So just a little bend is A-okay, especially if you're really tight in your hip flexors. So the front of that right leg. Couple more, exhale in. I'm feeling all of the things burn. So I'm suffering with you. Good. Coming on up. Press palms, gaze up if it feels okay to do so. And then as you exhale, hands come to the mat. Your choice. Step back to downward dog or take a chaturanga vinyasa. As you begin to get tired, it can become very wise to skip the chaturangas, especially if they start to get sloppy in your body. So always being mindful about these poses, being observant, paying attention to them. And just like our breath gives us something to focus on, observing those poses gives us something to focus on too. All right, so we're back in our downward dog. We're taking a few breaths here, feeling all of that great heat. Good, as you inhale, a little bend in your knees, come to your tippy toes. End of your exhale, you're gonna step right then left, walk through or hop. Inhale, chest lengthens. Exhale, fold in. This time as you inhale, knees bend. Arms reach up, Uttanasana, chair pose. We're gonna turn this into a little vinyasa here too. So feet are hips distance apart, toes are pretty light. So a little more weight in your heels. This is one of the few poses where we really feel that happen. As you exhale, you're gonna hinge forward, reach your arms back so it's like you're bombing down a ski hill. Inhale back into that chair. Exhale, nice and slow, press your legs to straight. So that nice tall stance. Inhale, knees bend. Exhale, hinge forward for those shoulder heads lift. Inhale, back into your chair. Keep those toes nice and light. Press to straight. Good, inhale, knees bend. Exhale, reach your arms back. Inhale, chair pose. Ooh, exhale, nice and slow up. Let's do two more. Inhale, knees bend. Exhale, hinge forward, fold in. Good, inhale. Press your legs to straight. Good, one more. You're doing great, stick with it. Exhale, feel shoulder heads lift. Inhale, reach arms up into your chair pose. Exhale, press your legs to straight, hallelujah. Close your eyes, palms together at your heart. Take a nice deep inhale through your nose. Open your mouth, sigh the breath out, let it go, ha. All right, so at the top of your mat, as you inhale, knees bend, arms reach up, Uttanasana, chair pose. As you exhale, hinge forward, fold in, Uttanasana. Inhale, chest extends forward, gaze comes forward. So if you're feeling really hot here, you're gonna step back to your downward facing dog. Otherwise, palms flat, left foot back, then right. Move through that chaturanga vinyasa with your breath, really distinct about each pose. All right, so we all meet back in our downward facing dog. Inhale, right leg lifts. Exhale, knee to nose, step that foot through. And then we're gonna spin into the back edge of our left foot. So classic warrior one, you're pointing those left toes towards the upper left-hand corner of your mat. You're trying to drag that hip forward. It's not gonna get there, that's fine. As you inhale, rise up. All right, so 5 breaths in our Virabhadrasana. 1. So sides of the waist are facing forward. You can take your arms as wide as you need to so that elbows can come to straighter and you can feel your shoulder blades releasing down your back. So that's a really great variation if you're tighter in the shoulders. So typically guys tend to be a little tighter. Okay, so we're gonna transition this into our warrior 2. So as you exhale, hands come to heart center. And you're gonna pick your feet up and move them. So that right foot comes off to the right, kind of heel toeing it over. And then I'm opening up that back leg. So my right heel is intersecting my left arch. Arms reach out, gaze comes out over those right fingertips. So whereas our Virabhadrasana 1, our crescent pose, hips are neutral, they're facing the same direction. This is a hip opening pose. We're feeling this big stretch in the front leg. This left hip is releasing down, so they're not on the same plane. Again, notice if toes are gripping. Soften, release, press into the four corners of the feet instead. Good. As you exhale, windmill arms up and over. Spin onto those left toes. Options here. Chaturanga Vinyasa, or you simply step back to your downward facing dog. If you're starting to get warm, if you've had enough, if you need a little break. They're all good options. And then we're going to take that sequence to the second side. So as you inhale, left leg lifts. Exhale, shift forward, knee to nose, and then step that foot through. Spin into the back edge of your right foot. Those toes are pointing towards the upper right-hand corner of your mat. Drag this left hip back as right hip comes forward. Inhale, rise up. Virabhadrasana 1, so you're dragging the right side of the waist forward, even with the left. Taking arms as wide as you need to. Directing tailbone down, feeling that engagement of your lower belly. There's so many similarities in all of our poses. They're all kind of just a variation on a theme. Good, couple more breaths. And you're feeling the legs burn. That's a good thing. We want them warm. As you exhale, hands come to heart center. Again, we're making a lot more space. So I walk my left foot off to the right. I open up that back leg. Left heel is intersecting that right arch. Tailbone releasing down here. Sides of the waist facing forward. Hip bones are not on the same plane though. This right hip is releasing down as I press this left knee open behind me. And then start to bring your gaze out over your left fingertips. And don't be shy about sinking in. A little deeper in your legs if you can, and maybe you can't. Maybe you need to back out a little bit. That's okay too. All right, so we're gonna windmill arms up and over. Chaturanga Vinyasa here, if you would like. Otherwise, you're pulling back to your downward facing dog. They're both really great options. Good, and then from here, quick little break. So finding a child's pose, big toes together, knees apart. Start to melt your hips back as you lengthen forward through the sides of your waist. Resting your forehead. You can either make a pillow with your hands or laying on your mat, maybe using a block. Really consciously start to slow things down here. Things being the breath. So stretch it out, the inhale to the count of 8 or 9, and then exhaling to that same count. If you're feeling really warm here, and exhale through the mouth is always a nice little trick to help you cool down, to help you slow everything down. Good, and then finding a twist here. So start to walk your arms off to the right, wrap those left ribs towards that right thigh, so you're just moving in that direction. You can think downward facing dog arms here, so fingers spread, they press evenly. As you press down, that helps you to wrap those left ribs towards your right thigh a little more. And then start to walk back to center with your arms. And then off to the left, so laying your belly out over that left thigh, wrapping those right ribs down. Arms extended and active. Good, begin to walk back to center with your arms. So a couple more breaths in your child pose. And then begin to roll on up. Good, and we're gonna come to seated. We're gonna do a little seated hip stretch here. So you could always sit up on a blanket. That's especially nice if it's hard for you to sit tall. And for many of us, we're tied in this pelvic girdle, so we kind of hunch forward. So sitting up on something is going to give you a little release. So that's a nice thing to have. And then if you do have blocks or books handy, just have them close by in case. All right, so we're going to bring our legs forward. So we're on those sit bones. We're going to take our right ankle and we're going to cross it above that left knee. So we do this often on our back. So it's just a little more intense sitting up. If you come here, if you find that you can't do this, or it just like feels like too much today, go ahead and lay down and just do your reclining pigeon. Flexing this right foot. So that just engages the muscles around the knee. We never want knee sensation when we are coming into these hip openers. So we want to feel the stretch mostly in that right hip, glute area. All right, so it can also be really nice to put your fingertips behind you just to help you find that height in your spine. And this is where blocks can be really good. So again, depending upon how you're built, maybe resting your hands on blocks feels nice, especially if you're sitting up on a blanket, so your fingertips have further to reach to the floor. You can also take this right hand and just kind of press into that right thigh really gently. You won't need to do that if you're tight. So an interesting thing starts to happen when we come into these long-held, intense poses. Usually the thoughts start to kick up. So it can be uncomfortable being here. So the brain is like, get me out. When will I ever get flexible? We start saying mean things to ourselves, or we start noticing the people around us. That's kind of one of the great benefits of Zoom, is that you just get to be like in your own little at-home hidey hole. Nobody can see what you're doing. You can't see what anybody else is doing. So maybe count your breath here. Again, just giving your brain something to chew on. Maybe back out of the pose a little bit if you need to. If you do feel like you'd like to go a little further, you're gonna press down into fingertips. Scooch your sit bones closer to that left heel. Good, but if you do that, if the compromise is that you start to round in a lot, maybe go back to where you were or split the difference. So just taking a few more breaths here. Especially in these long held poses, like you're not going for the peak of the pose. You're not trying to get in as deep as you might be able to. Do a little less. Observe if there's places where you're gripping, holding tension that you don't need to, that makes the pose a little more intense as well. So it's tricky to try to soften in those places, but see if you can kind of figure that out. All right, so if you scoot it in a little closer, just give yourself a little more room. And we're gonna take this right thigh, cross it over our left thigh. Begin to extend that left leg to straight. And I'm gonna give you a few different options here. We're gonna come into a nice long held twist. So if you're here and this right sit bone is popping up off the mat a lot, you're gonna actually uncross and just bring that ankle underneath your knee. If you're here and it's easy to sit like this, you might play with bending your left knee in. So again, if this left sit bone or right sit bone starts to pop up, come back to one of these previous stages. All right, so again, sitting nice and tall. We have a couple options here with our, with this left arm. So pressing down into a block behind you with your right hand or on your fingertips. You can hug here, and that might be really nice. It's a little less intense. And then it gives you that nice leverage so that you can press your shoulder heads back. If you do want to get into the twist a little deeper, you can hook that left elbow to the outside of your right thigh. And then start to bring your gaze forward. You're feeling these left ribs wrap to the right, but you're holding on to all of that length in your spine. Maybe you begin to look out over that right shoulder if it feels okay. And you're observing how your inhale feels. It's tricky in these twists. It's hard to get a nice deep inhale because everything is constricted in. Notice where your brain goes. Come back to your breath. Come back to the pose. Find those places where you're gripping that you don't need to be. Soften in those places. Good, deep inhale. As you exhale, come back to center with your upper body. So if you have that left knee bent, extend that leg to straight. Uncross this right thigh. And then just find your nice Tandasana. So that's gonna feel good. Just taking a couple of breaths here like this before we take that sequence to the second side. All right, so bending knees, so feet are bowed, hips distance apart, you're on those sit bones and giving yourself space, especially if you're a little tighter. Good, and then we're gonna take this left ankle, cross it above the right ankle, and right away you're gonna notice that this side, it feels different. So again, if doing this upright is really, really intense, you can lay down on your back, just come into that reclining pigeon. So fingertips on the mat behind you to help you hold on to some of that height, that length in your spine. Fingertips could be on a block. And you might be able to just start to direct that left knee forward. You can also use your left hand to gently press. You might not need to do that. So we're all at different places. Doesn't matter what the person next to you is doing. Maybe it doesn't even matter the pose that you have in your mind, what it's supposed to look like in your body. Let that go too. And instead just be good with where you're at. It's always changing. It takes a lot of time, so we don't always know that that's happening. But when we keep showing up, it is. Maybe get curious about how this side feels different in your body. Maybe get curious about why that might be the case. So finally, if you want to scoot in a little closer, you are welcome to do that, but don't do that at the expense of keeping your spine nice and long. A few more really good breaths here. Okay, so if you scooted your sit bones in closer to that right heel, just find a little space again. And then we're gonna cross this left thigh over the right thigh. Start to extend that right leg to straight. If that left sit bone is lifted up off the mat, go ahead and uncross that foot. So you could just be here like this. You might be here with the leg crossed. You might bend your right knee. So they're all really great variations. And then we come into this nice long held twist. So left fingertips reach behind you. This is like your little kickstand to keep your spine nice and long. You hug here with that right arm. Maybe you twist in a little deeper, bringing elbow to the outside of that thigh. They press against each other so that you can press your shoulder heads back. This side might look different. That's okay. And then just start to bring your gaze forward. That might just be a wonderful place to stay. A few of us might move in the direction of bringing our gaze out over that left shoulder. And you're trying to fill up on your inhale. That's hard to do. In the twist, though, we can feel the emptying out on that exhale a little more, because it's kind of like all of that twisting action is helping to squeeze everything out. So maybe you notice how that feels in this pose. A few more good breaths here. Good deep inhale. As you exhale, you come back to center. So if this right knee is bent, extend that leg to straight. Uncross left leg if that's where you're at, and then extend to straight. Just give the legs a little shake out here. Good. And then we're going to come into our Upavista Konasana, so wide-legged pose. And this is a really, really great one. Again, if you know that it's really hard to sit up tall, if you're tighter in hamstrings, if you're tighter in the groin, this is a big groin stretch. Sitting on a blanket or two is an amazing little adjustment so that you can keep that length through the sides of your waist. And then you're going to take your legs wide and then go a little less wide than you can, since we're going to come into these holds for a little bit. And then also you might find, so my heels are on the hardwood floor right now. It's actually quite painful. So if you're in a place where you're like not on carpet, pull back so that your heels can be on your mat. And then you might need a block or two here. So before we come into this hold, we're just going to move and we're going to be folding forward. So I just kind of want to pulse it a little bit though. So as you exhale, you're going to rock forward. Inhale up, and it might just be the tiniest movement. You're keeping those legs really active so the toes are pointing down towards the ceiling. And again, this is a big groin stretch, so we're really tight here. And all of these muscles attaching, so to get this forward motion for many of us is not easy. So we're kind of just trying to warm that sensation up. And no, you might not have to fold forward very much at all to get that stretch. Let's do a few more like this. Good. And then go ahead and start to fold in. Again, toes are active. And almost as you activate the toes, it feels like those outer hips start to squeeze in towards each other. And then this is a fantastic place to rest forearms on blocks if you have them. And then as we hold here, you might find that things are opening up a little bit and you can lower down a little more. And of course, if this is really easy for you, you might be resting your head on a block. But I do want you to find that engagement in your legs and maybe even think a little micro bend in your knees just to protect that knee joint. So this can be a really big stretch there. And then just notice kind of what you're thinking about this pose. I kind of think that you either really love this pose, and I think that the percentage of the population that really loves this pose is super small. I'm guessing Susie is loving this pose. I find this pose to be incredibly challenging. I think that I am in the, I think most people feel that way. This isn't easy. So we start to think, oh my God, how much longer do I have to hold this? So maybe that means you need to back out a little bit. And start to think, oh my God, when am I ever gonna get better at this pose? Let it go. There certain shapes that we may never be able to get into, that's okay. So let's take about 4 or 5 more breaths here. Check in with your spine again. Still make sure that you're getting that length, that you're not starting to round in. So feel that lift of the sternum up towards the ceiling instead. And then we start to make our way out. Maybe you say hallelujah. Hands come underneath your knees. Just help bend those knees in. So that was a really long hold. And we're going to give ourselves a squeeze here. So if you can't wrap around shins, and just hold your thighs, round in, let the back of your neck release down. And then we're going to start to make our way into our Shavasana. So you do have that roll up from the beginning of class. It might be really nice to just take that and place it underneath your knees here for your Shavasana. It's to help you get a little release of the spine and the lumbar. Good, so just find a place where you're comfortable. And then melt in here and take up lots of space. If there's props in your way, move them out of the way. Sometimes that can be distracting when we're touching something. And let's take a deep inhale here together. Open your mouth, sigh the breath out, let it go, ha. Take a deeper inhale. Let the breath go, ha. Start to bring some gentle movement back to your body, yawn, stretch, wiggle. So anything that feels good here. And staying soft and quiet, you're gonna roll to one side or the other. Just pause there in the fetal position for a moment. So just transitioning out of our Shavasana. You'll eventually use your hands to help you press up to a comfortable seat. So finding your nice Sukhasana. Just notice the sense of ease that that you feel as you sit here, the sense of length in your spine. Notice how your breath has changed. Notice how your headspace has changed. So hopefully you're feeling a little quieter, more focused, maybe a little joy. Send yourself love and gratitude for showing up and working hard, making the effort. Just promise yourself that you're going to carry some of this feeling with you into the rest of the day ahead. Palms come together at your heart. Bow your head with a smile. Thank you guys. Great work today. Namaste.